I am Richard Melendez, and this is The Thought Balloon on ThinkTech Hawaii. The Thought Balloon is where I share reviews and discuss all things related to comic books and graphic novels. Here at The Thought Balloon, I've spoken about comics that tackle philosophy, paternal relationships, identity politics, immigration, and war. And it's my hope that I've not only opened your eyes to the comics that exist outside of the realm of superheroes, but also that comics as an artistic medium is more than capable of tackling serious topics, whether as thinly veiled allegory or confronting it head-on. The language of comics is a powerful one. The marriage of words and images, when done well, serves to strengthen each other and raise the narrative to new heights. This is true in fictional works, and it's all the more true in works of nonfiction. Which brings me to today's topic, comics as journalism. Of all the forms of comics that exist, this is the one people seem the most surprised to hear about. Now, a typical news organization has reporters on the front lines of a story. They're working with photographers and videographers to bring words and pictures together to tell a compelling narrative about the goings-on in our world. The same applies to comics. Comics aren't limited to telling tales of the fantastic. Comics can tell emotional tales from everyday lives. Comics can teach. Comics can enlighten. And comics can open our eyes to what's going on around us. Perhaps one of the most well-known journalists in the realm of comics is Joe Sacco. And though he's had a long and prolific career, his two most popular works include his projects about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the Bosnian War. The former was collected in a volume called Palestine, and the latter as the graphic novel Safe Area Garajdi, The War in Eastern Bosnia 1992 through 1995. For both projects, Sacco was on the ground talking to people affected by these conflicts. He lived among them. He gained their trust. He reported on both sides of these complicated situations, providing the illustrations himself, and thus giving us, the readers, a new perspective not seen in the mainstream media. But the realm of comics journalism is far wider than just Joe Sacco. There are numerous comics journalists and outlets operating today. Josh Neufeld produced AD, New Orleans After the Deluge, about the impact of Hurricane Katrina upon the region. In this book, he recounts the stories of several residents during and after the storm. Patrick Chapet has provided investigative comics about gang violence in Central America and gave us a look into the slums of Nairobi. Matt Bors collaborated with a group of Haitian cartoonists and journalists to report on the devastation of the 2010 earthquake there. Symbolia magazine folded earlier this year, but they produced an e-magazine formatted for tablets. It contained in-depth stories about subjects like the Affordable Care Act, privatization of infrastructure, the safety net, and they even covered the arts and sciences. The blogging and social journalism platform known as Medium launched a side project called The Nib, which features news stories in comics form. Like Symbolia, these are mostly in-depth stories with topics of immediate relevancy, such as the stock market and politics. They approach these stories with a needed gravity and insight, yet in a visual format that is easy to digest. Illustrated Press is a multimedia company based out of Chicago that specializes in comics journalism and illustrated nonfiction, and have tackled topics like poverty, police brutality, gun violence, and education, subjects relevant to their immediate community and to the country at large. So as you can see, comics journalism is not a blip or a fad. It's a legitimate and well-formed field unto itself with a wide breadth of subject matter. And to be clear, this is journalism in its truest form. This isn't comedy or satire, nor are these single-panel political cartoons that are boiled down to a single punchline. This is investigative journalism, unflinchingly raw and hardcore, with no agenda other than to portray the truth. And though these stories are told in comics form, they're as well-researched, as in-depth, moving, eye-opening, and thought-provoking as anything seen in the New York Times or on PBS's front line. Telling these stories in comics form doesn't lessen their value or make them any less serious. In fact, the words working in harmony with the images often makes the stories all the more real and relatable. The pen is mightier than the sword, as the saying goes. A picture is worth 1,000 words, goes another. The one is about the power of the written word, and the other is about the strength of an image. These two trains of thought are not at odds with each other. In fact, when words and pictures are used together, you've got something that's exponentially more powerful. You've got comics. Thank you for watching the Thought Balloon on ThinkTech Hawaii. I am Richard Melendez. Until next time.